Hello, my lovely friends. Welcome back to Village Storytime. Today, we have a story about a boy named Frank and a girl named Kenny. They were both in love and very happy together. But then, something happened. Can you guess? Yes, it was heartbreak. Frank hurt Kenny, and they broke up. Frank was the most popular boy in Unilag, not just because he was handsome, but because he had a heart that made everyone feel special. The girls loved him, and the boys wanted to be him. But there was one girl who loved him more than anyone else, and that was Kenny. Kenny was quiet, smart, and always stayed in the background. She had admired Frank from afar since their first day in school. When Frank finally noticed her, it felt like a dream come true. They started spending time together, and soon, they became the perfect couple, the envy of everyone in school. Frank and Kenny were inseparable, and everyone thought they were destined to be together forever. But as time went on, things started to change. Frank began to distance himself. He no longer called Kenny as often, and when they were together, he seemed distracted. Kenny noticed the change, but every time she asked him about it, Frank would smile and say everything was fine. But Kenny knew deep down that something was wrong. Then came the day that changed everything. Kenny found out she was pregnant. She was scared, confused, and didn't know what to do. She thought about Frank, hoping he would support her, that they would figure it out together. But when she told him, Frank's reaction was not what she expected. Instead of comforting her, Frank looked shocked, almost angry. He said he wasn't ready for this, that it wasn't what he wanted. He told her they needed to break up, that he couldn't handle the responsibility. Kenny felt like her world was falling apart. The boy she loved, the boy she thought loved her, was rejecting her at the time she needed him the most. She couldn't believe that the Frank who once made her feel like the most important person in the world was now the same person who was turning his back on her. Heartbroken and alone, Kenny had to make a difficult decision. She chose to keep the baby, even though it meant facing everything on her own. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to be strong. As the months passed, Kenny heard rumors that Frank had started seeing another girl, one of the old girls, who had graduated years ago but still hung around Unilag. Kenny couldn't understand how Frank could move on so quickly, how he could forget everything they had shared. Frank thought he was living the best life after he left Kenny. The new girl he started going out with, Ada, was beautiful and always knew how to have fun. She was older, more experienced, and she introduced Frank to a life he had never known before. They went to parties, met lots of new people, and Ada always had a way of making Frank feel important. But something didn't feel right. At first, Frank tried to ignore the feeling. He told himself that this was what he wanted, that he deserved to have fun. But the more time he spent with Ada, the more he started to see things differently. Ada wasn't like Kenny. She didn't care about the little things that made Frank happy. She didn't ask about his day or listen when he talked about his dreams. Everything with Ada was about her, what she wanted, where she wanted to go, and who she wanted to see. One day, Frank overheard Ada talking to her friends. She didn't know Frank was listening, and she said something that made his heart sink. She told her friends that she was only with Frank because he was popular, because everyone knew him. She said that as soon as someone better came along, she would leave him without a second thought. Frank couldn't believe what he was hearing. All this time, he thought Ada cared about him, but she was just using him to boost her own image. The truth hit him hard. He had left Kenny, the one person who truly cared about him, for someone who didn't even care about him at all. As he walked away from Ada's place that day, Frank couldn't stop thinking about Kenny. He remembered how she always supported him, how she was there for him no matter what. He realized that he had made a huge mistake, but Frank was afraid. He didn't know if Kenny would ever forgive him, especially after how he treated her when she needed him the most. Dear viewers, what do you think will happen? Will Kenny forgive Frank, or is it too late? If you're enjoying this story, please like this video. Yes, click that like button now. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Village Storytimes, so you won't miss what happens next in this story. When Frank finally got the courage to go back to Kenny, he was nervous. He knew he had hurt her deeply, and he wasn't sure if she would even want to see him. When he arrived at her house, he took a deep breath and knocked on the door. When Kenny opened the door and saw Frank standing there, she was surprised. She didn't know what to say. Viewers, do you think Kenny will take Frank back? Let's quickly recap what happened to Kenny after she became pregnant, and how she managed to survive the challenges that followed. Kenny was heartbroken when Frank left her, especially after she found out she was carrying his baby. At first, she didn't know what to do. She cried every night, feeling alone and scared. But deep inside, Kenny knew she had to be strong. She decided to keep the baby, even though it meant she would face everything by herself. But Kenny wasn't really alone. There were people who cared about her and helped her through the hard times. One of those people was her auntie. Kenny's auntie was a kind woman who had always treated Kenny like her own daughter. When she found out about Kenny's situation, she didn't judge her. Instead, she took Kenny into her home and promised to help her raise the baby. Auntie would tell Kenny every day, "You are strong, my dear. You can do this." These words gave Kenny hope and made her believe that she could handle whatever came her way. Auntie also introduced Kenny to a group of women in the neighborhood who were mothers too. They shared their stories with Kenny, telling her about the challenges they faced and how they overcame them. Hearing these stories made Kenny feel less alone and more determined to be a good mother. As Kenny's pregnancy progressed, something amazing happened. She started to feel the baby move inside her, and every time she felt those little kicks, it filled her with joy. The baby was like a miracle to her. It was a sign that no matter how hard things got, there was still something beautiful in her life. The day Kenny's baby was born was the happiest day of her life. She named her baby girl Oyutobi, which means God is great. Holding her baby in her arms, Kenny felt a kind of love she had never known before. It was a love that made all the pain she had gone through worth it. Viewers, if you're touched by Kenny's story, please like this video. And don't forget to share it with your friends. And if you want to hear more stories like this, subscribe to our channel, Village Storytime, so you don't miss out on any of our stories. As time went on, Kenny became stronger. She went back to school, determined to finish her studies so she could provide a good life for her daughter. She also found a job to support herself and Oyutobi. Life wasn't easy, but Kenny never gave up. She kept pushing forward, always thinking of her daughter and the future they would have together. One day, when Kenny was out with Oyutobi, she ran into Frank. Frank couldn't believe his eyes when he saw Kenny. She looked different, more confident, more beautiful, and happier than ever. And Oyutobi, with her big bright eyes, was the most adorable baby Frank had ever seen. Frank felt a pang of regret as he watched Kenny with their daughter. He realized that he had made a huge mistake by leaving her. He could see that Kenny had become a strong woman, someone who had faced great challenges and come out stronger. He wanted to be a part of their lives again, to be there for his daughter, and to make things right with Kenny. Despite his fear, Frank knew he had to try. He had to go back to Kenny and tell her the truth, to tell her how sorry he was. But would Kenny even listen to him? Would she give him another chance? The thought of losing Kenny forever made Frank's heart ache. Support this channel by liking this video and clicking the subscribe button. Thank you as you do so. When Frank finally got the courage to go back to Kenny, He was nervous. He knew he had hurt her deeply, and he wasn't sure if she would even want to see in. When he arrived at her house, he took a deep breath and knocked on the door. When Kimmy opened the door and saw Frank standing there, she was surprised. She didn't know what to say. Frank started talking, his voice shaking. He told Kimmy everything, how he had been wrong, how he realized that Ada didn't care about him the way Kimmy did, how he missed her and wanted to be with her again. But as he spoke, he could see the hurt in Kimmy's eyes. She didn't say anything for a long time, and Frank started to worrying that he had lost her for good. Finally, Kimmy spoke. She told Frank that she had been through a lot, that she had cried many nights because of him. She told him that she didn't know if she could trust him again, that she was scared he might hurt her again. But as she looked into Frank's eyes, she saw how much he regretted his actions. She saw the same boy she had fallen in love with, the boy who made her feel special. Kimmy told Frank that she needed time to think. She couldn't just take him back right away. Frank understood and promised to give her all the time she needed. He told her that he would wait for her, no matter how long it took, because she was the only one he truly loved. But viewers, will Kimmy take Frank back after everything he put her through? Do you think she should give him another chance? Or should she move on with her life without him? If you want to find out what happens next, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Village Storytime for more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in the next video.